Welcome to Level Up Real Estate Investing Podcast with Robert Hyder. This is a no-fluff podcast where we dig deep into the journey of scaling your real estate investing and wholesaling business and discuss how to break into commercial real estate investing. Robert Hyder here with Level Up Real Estate Investing Podcast. For those who don't know me, I'll go through my journey a little bit here. I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri, a lower middle class family. First member of my family to traditionally go to college. Out of college, I got into commercial real estate finance. It worked out really well. I was one of the youngest vice presidents of commercial real estate lending in St. Louis at the age of 25. During my time, I underwrote over $1 billion in commercial real estate deals. And then transitioned into full-time entrepreneurial real estate investing in 2013. When I got into real estate investing personally, I focused more on real estate rehabs, did some rentals and wholesales as I was trying to learn the wholesaling game. I quickly realized that the wholesaling side of the business was more scalable, focused on that heavy, and over the 6 years had exponential growth. In 2019, we will have purchased over 200 houses for wholesale, as well as running a real estate brokerage that'll do 60 million plus in transactions. We started and have since sold a residential property management company, and we've made a big transition into commercial real estate lending. Commercial real estate deals. We made a big transition into commercial real estate deals. We own and manage over 110,000 square feet of commercial space, as well as 60 plus residential doors. And the reason I go through all this for you guys is to get into the mission of this podcast, the real reason that I'm here. This is for next level thinkers. We're gonna be talking about the newest ideas, the most innovative stuff. We're gonna be talking about the 1% and 2% difference, the it factor, the edge, the stuff that really makes some investors great while other investors fail. We're gonna be digging deep into work-life balance, mindset. We're going to be having interviews with some of the top folks in the industry, both in the residential and commercial real estate investing sectors, as well as high-level finance guys, maybe even tech guys that have scaled big businesses. If you want to be the best investor that you can be, and you want to get opened up to folks that are doing huge things, how they think, how they make decisions, how they process data, you're in the right spot. Welcome to Level Up Real Estate Investing Podcast. Really stoked. Today is a special day. We've got Greg Herlean here. This guy's unbelievable. So he started in real estate investing 17 plus years ago. Started like a lot of us, residential real estate investing, rehabbing, flipping residential houses. He then got into flipping commercial buildings. Talks about that a little bit in this podcast. It's fantastic. And most importantly, this guy, he owns a $700 million, or a trust company with $700 million under management, and is in the process of scaling that up to over $1.5 billion in assets under management by the end of 2020. Unbelievable. And even beyond that, he has a lending company that has over $100 million out on the street in hard money loans, specifically on commercial real estate investments. He talks about work-life balance, some other very great things. Stay tuned. Here we go. Ali, we ready? All right. Welcome, everyone. Level Up Real Estate Investing Podcast. Very excited to be here. We got Greg Herlean out of Las Vegas, Nevada. He's got an amazing story, just a freaking super guy. So stoked to have it. Greg, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Robert.
Absolutely. Why don't you just give a quick 2-minute kind of how you got started in this business?
I guess where I could start is drop out of college. So I was in college and I came back to visit my parents who were living in Vegas, and it was super warm, and it was like December or January, and I grew up all over. My dad was in the Air Force, and we always lived in cold places. And so came back to Vegas, and I was like, wow, I didn't know places could be warm in the winter. And I was like, cool. And so that's my excuse, at least. I think my grades probably weren't that great either. So I was like, I need to do something else. And so I actually came back and visited, and my mom set me up on this lunch date, and with this other lady in church. So not this lady, this lady's daughter, right? So they set me up with this daughter, and so we go to lunch. And after lunch, it was like a Wednesday or Thursday during some kind of break in the winter of college. I take her out and we go after lunch. She says she wants to like drive by her house or meet her parents or something, which I know sounds aggressive, first date, but whatever.
Sure.
So, but I'll never forget kind of something that I only saw in the movies or in TV. And I definitely didn't grow up this way. I grew up with minimal resources. But we pull up to her house and it's like a Wednesday at 2:00 and her dad is outside. First of all, Wednesday at 2:00. I never saw my dad on a Wednesday at 2:00.
Sure.
Her dad's outside, like in his shorts and tank top, cleaning his boat in front of this big old house. And I was like, well, whatever I'm doing, like I gotta do what I'm doing. And so that's actually, truthfully, where it all began. Is I actually dropped out of college, never went another date with this girl, and I was confident enough to actually ask him if I could work for him and do whatever he said. And so I did that. So for about 18 months, I just did anything. Picked up his dry cleaning, met his contacts, listened to him speak, just anything he could do. And he was doing about half of his business was involved in real estate. The other half was involved in things that really weren't as much interest to me, but I learned a lot from him and I got to see his contacts and whatnot. So I remember him giving me like all his bad leads, like, okay, yeah, you want to start doing this? Like you can call these people. And I just really started, that's how I got introduced to real estate. And everyone that I talked to wanted to be in real estate. And the problem I had is I had zero money. I had no money. My family had no money. My friends had no money. And so I had to figure out very quickly, even though I could find a real estate deal, I wanted to like flip my first deal, I had to go find money. And so I figured out, we'll talk about this later, but I figured out what one of the best places to go find money was. And I learned that at a young age. I was 23 years old and learned how to go find money for real estate and did my first deal with someone else's money. My first deal was $60,000. Someone else funded it 100%. After 90 days, I made $3,000. My investor made $12,000. And I mean, I felt pretty good. In fact, I felt really good. It was $3,000. I was 23 years old. And that's where kind of it began. And then, I did more and more and ended up doing hundreds of deals. And then I thought, because I was, so good,
sure.
What I did, and I'm skipping over the learning curve, right? All the things that I messed up at, because I definitely had my share of mess ups. But I thought I would then go and like do bigger assets, to be, not be like all the other guys flipping homes. And so I then started flipping commercial projects, apartment complexes, and hotels. And I learned a lot. I got beat up a bit, and I made a lot of money as well. But when I say I went and did those things, I over that time period, I built a great team, and my job was to raise money. So I was always a partner, but I always found the money. Mm-hmm. And I learned that finding the money was one of the most critical parts. If I could find money, I'd always find a deal that I could be in. And so,
yeah.
So that since then I've lent over $1 billion in real estate. I've really gotten good at using IRA monies to kind of fund deals, and 4 kids and a lovely other half in my life. And so that's, now I live in 2 places back and forth in Vegas and Orange County, California. So I'm still involved in real estate, heavily involved in the IRA business, heavily involved in my kids' lives, and my other half and I enjoy our time here on this earth. So that's as quick as I could go to give you a little background on me. Yeah,
no, that is absolutely fantastic. And you guys do have, you enjoy life. It's so cool to see. And you guys are just great folks. So, we were just in Cabo together and had an awesome time there. And I think prior to that we were, I don't know, San Diego, Park City. Yeah. A few different places. So it's awesome to see. And honestly, it's really, really cool. So the way your story kind of started there, where you're just like, really relates to my story. So I grew up lower middle class. My dad started his company, I think when I was like probably just finishing high school or getting into college, right? So a very similar boat where I didn't really know anyone that had money growing up and didn't have friends that had any money growing up. And then it wasn't until I got to college that my eyes were kind of open to folks that did. And that's when I really realized that real estate was a way. So like one of my really good friends, fraternity brother and got pretty close with, his dad owned a pretty big real estate development company in the town where the college was. It was Columbia, Missouri. And then I met a few folks through him that their families were in real estate. And I was like, oh my gosh, it was just such a big eye opener to what could be had there. And it totally shifted my entire perspective, because I was going to college for pre-law, and I thought that was going to be the route. And then I was like, and then made a huge U-turn, and then it was like, okay, business. And then randomly, Mizzou, the university I went to, they had a dual major program to get into real estate. We actually and that would really tied me in, where I was like, okay, I can understand this. And even to this day are the best classes that I've ever taken. I use that information every single day, and then stumbled into kind of the commercial real estate field and the finance side of it, all as a result of that. So within like a 3-year time, just getting my eyes open to these folks. And then, fortunately, because kind of like your scenario, his family lived in the town. So we were always over there hanging out, and it was like, man, how can we go to these sites? How can we be around? How can I be around this? It radiates. It was so closely tied to that. I think it's really awesome what you did there too. It's like, hey, let me shadow this guy, do anything I can, get tied into him, and you're learning about real estate, but also the culture. And there's so many takeaways being that close to somebody, how they talk, how they meet with people, how the connections are, what their takeaways are when they're meeting with folks, just kind of being that fly on the wall. That's cool.
Yeah.
So with digging into your side, so finding the money, that was the big piece, right? That was kind of your big breakthrough. You realized. Let's talk about kind of Horizon Trust, the trust company that you've started, because it's just, the more I hear about it, the more just unbelievably impressed I am with it. And then also kind of your commercial real estate lending now as a result of that. And then we can kind of dig into flipping the commercial deals, because that's super exciting too. So yeah.
So, first, you have to remind me if I get off topic here and I answer your question. But first, I'll start on the Horizon thing. So, when I was raising money and finding partners to do real estate, both commercial and residential, typically equity was needed, right? And the banks typically want some kind of equity in the deal, and I could only put down so much, maybe 25 grand, maybe 50.
Sure.
And these deals might need 100, 200, $1 million, whatever the case is. And so I was building up my Rolodex of different clients or friends, et cetera. As we'd flip one deal, we'd flip another. And then I was introduced to the self-directing IRA concept. And so I learned that an individual could move their IRA funds or the retirement funds into a trust company, a custodian company. That is not your typical traditional, like Charles Schwab's of the world, into a trust company. And that trust company then would allow an individual to invest their retirement funds into alternative assets like real estate, notes, whatever you want to be, gold. You name it, cryptocurrency, businesses, all the things that your typical financial advisor would not allow you to do. And so I learned all about that. And so I would teach that to people just so they then would move a portion of their funds to fund my deal.
Sure.
So part of my process was introducing them to the concept so they would then fund my deal. And so I was doing that over and over again. But the problem I kept running into every month, because I was getting kind of referring more and more clients to other trust companies, is these other trust companies, for the most part, just sucked. Their service was terrible. And they didn't even do what they said they were going to do. It was just terrible. And so if a client was rolling over their IRA to invest part of their funds into my deal, and the process wasn't seamless,
yeah,
they would call me and think my real estate deal sucked.
Right. They were nervous about it. Yeah.
It had nothing to do with it. And so after that happened many, many times, this is about 15 years ago, I decided I was going to fix it. I was like, I'm going to start a trust company. And so I truly started a trust company just to fix a problem in my process. That was it. And then, I started that trust company. I then sold it and started my next trust company where I'd be the majority partner in, which I started 10 years ago now. And that's called Horizon Trust Company. So Horizon Trust Company I started truly was more of just out of necessity. And now it has become my biggest part of my life and business. I now spend probably 80% of my time on teaching people how to use their money, their IRA funds, retirement funds, in investing in things they like and enjoy and understand and avoid paying taxes. Or I teach people how to talk to others about getting them to fund their deals using an IRA. And so it's been really the difference maker for me in my career, this concept and how to avoid paying taxes using it, how to invest in what you want, how to find money for deals. IRAs, self-directed IRAs, has really changed my life. And frankly, anyone that kind of knows me, it's changed their lives too, because I've kind of forced them into learning this. It's just the right way of finding money, because people aren't happy in the stock market, and the people also aren't happy paying their taxes. And so if I can show you how to do something you're really good at, passionate at, but just do it a little bit differently to avoid paying taxes or a lot of your taxes, you'll do it. And so I've gotten, that is probably one of my main businesses. But what keeps me in my game, going on to your next segment, I think you asked me, is why I think our trust company, I think, is unique and boutique, and we're very user friendly, I'll say, is I'm still an investor. So I'm still doing these deals. I'm not just a trust company owner. Before I was a trust company owner, it's like the Rogaine commercial, I was a real estate investor. So
yeah.
I still am today. And so every year I would say I'm involved in 4 to 6 larger commercial deals that I'm a partner in. And so I'm still in the game. I don't really do many house flips. When I say I don't do many, maybe I'll flip 1 or 2 a year, only because it's a friend who's like, that's looking for financing, and I like them, but that's not my forte.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing, more commercial kind of stuff, or, broken down stuff. I like dirty deals that have hair on them. I think you and I spoke about them. You actually spoke about it, but deals that have, that are, messed up at the bank. I like broken, dirty deals because there's more opportunity for upside. And so I'm still in the game, but I'm also involved in building my trust company. So.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So what, there's so many things to come out of this. So the trust company, when you were first starting it, when you were really kind of doing it to solve a problem because you wanted the money and you were kind of working with these folks. And I know exactly what you're talking about, because I invest through my self-directed IRA. And I absolutely love it. And it's fantastic. We just did a note purchase about 2.5 months ago that capitalized this week, which is really exciting, or last week, which is really exciting. But I know what you're talking about, because when you're bringing folks in on a passive role to invest in your deal, and they have to go and you have to teach them about the self-directed process, then you got to tell them where to go, or kind of point them in the right direction of where to go. And then when it inevitably gets stumbled up, because most of them are just so terrible, and so is the one I use until I transfer over to you here soon. But everyone that's been that way, and then the folks they lose confidence in your deal and you when that process goes bad, because they kind of think of it as all one transaction, when in reality you're just helping them get their money to, Charles Schwab or Scottrade or Amerivest or whatever, is really all it really comes down to. It's just that of the self-directed IRA world, but they don't look at it like that. So I totally makes sense. And then now you've done that, and it's become a huge, huge business that you've got growing. How big are you up to in regards to kind of assets under management? Or I guess not under management, but within the self-directed IRA field. Yeah.
So our trust company, we're custodian of we're actually pretty small. We only have about 700 million and about 6,000 clients. I know it sounds big, but in our world, it's pretty small. But we, our growth year after year has been really, really good. And so I actually am forecasting and believe that between now, so it took me about 9 years to get to 600 to 700 million in assets. And I would bet you by the end of 2020, we will be at probably $1.2 billion. We're going to almost double in the next 12 months. I'm excited. I'm overstaffed for it, so I'm prepared for it. And
nice.
We have pretty big goals for this next year. So it's look, stats on this I think are interesting. There's over 80 million IRA account holders in the United States. So if you think about it, everyone that's listening to this, you or at least 30% of the people have an IRA. So so everyone's got one, or at least 30% of people do, and that number represents of the over $80 million. Over 80 million accounts represents over $5.7 trillion in funds sitting in retirement accounts that, frankly, people are not happy with. Now, I'm not here to tell you that everyone should self-direct. And I also want to put this disclaimer out there. Horizon Trust Company, we don't promote investments at all. Our job is just to make sure that we set up the account correctly, and we do contributions and distributions the correct way. We don't advise on different recommendations on certain investments or companies. Our job is to help with the account. And so, but what's incredible is most people get zero service from their financial advisor. I mean, think about it. If you have an IRA account, and if you're listening to this, when's the last time your financial guy called you and was like, "Hey, Robert, I've got this great stock. You got it right now. I did all the research on it, and I think if you get it, we're going to be able to sell." But the last time you got a phone call, it was, "Hey, do you want to maybe do a review and put some more money in? You can start investing more with me."
Yeah.
Invest more money so you can get a bigger fee. And so I am certain that if you are actively engaged in the decision making of your retirement funds, which you should be, all you got to do is spend 30 minutes a month, it's nothing, a few hours a year. It is the difference between you having millions of dollars in your IRA account and only hundreds of $1,000s, just by paying attention to your account and making decisions. Because I truly think and know from personal experience that you can make an extra 2 to 5 or 6% every year on your money. And when you start compounding that out, it's a huge difference. So
Absolutely.
I start getting excited about that. And if you're not excited about numbers, because some people they get bored, you might fall asleep on that part. But this is the stuff that I get excited about.
Hell yeah. And if you're watching this, now's the time to pay attention. I don't care if you don't like it. It makes a difference. Everyone's here because they want to be better. They want to scale up. They want to make more money. That's why they're watching. So that's a big piece. And I'll tell you what, I'll in the show notes, I'll include that link that we kind of went over in Cabo there that shows if you make an extra 2% per year on your money, how big of a difference it makes, 3%. And I'm just a huge proponent of it. Also, obviously, the folks that are listening to this are going to primarily be in the real estate investing field already. And especially with assets that you're passively involved in, I mean, you can buy those assets within your IRA, and then all of the income that's produced is essentially tax-free.
That's right.
So, you're rolling over that income that would be going to taxes. It's staying in there, just building and building and building, which is fantastic. You talked about it.
Your Roth, but you do it inside your Roth, it grows tax-free, comes out tax-free. Otherwise, you're just deferring your taxes, which is awesome for compounding reasons, and you pay taxes just on the way out. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's huge. So you talked about it a little bit when we were together last, which just really resonated, and I wanted to kind of bring that up. Can you go over a little bit of that, like some other real estate investors that and kind of how they've done, real estate investing in a couple different ways within their self-directed IRA?
Sure. I mean, so there's so many different variables. Almost you name it, you can do it. One of the general things I'll share with you is, or I'll give you an example. Like so Robert's doing a commercial deal, and let's say he needs to raise $500,000, and of that $500,000, he's giving away 25% of this new company, and so my IRA, I can give him $100,000, which would equate to, in the example I just gave you, 5% of that company. And so when the distributions go out and when it pays off, all my money plus the interest, obviously your profits, go back into my IRA, and that's typically a deal you can't get involved with when you're, at Charles Schwab or Merrill Lynch or wherever you're at. So being able to do that, it's pretty creative and a lot of fun. The other stuff, there's just, like the wholesaling. I mean, you can turn your IRA, your $5,000. For some people, that are listening will say, well, I'm a real estate professional, whatever the case may be. I've got lots, making lots of money, but I don't have an IRA. And maybe you think it's too late to start, or just don't want to start yet. First of all, if you're young, you're crazy not to. I started at such a young age that it's paid off. But you can start a Roth IRA, put $5,000 into it today, and your Roth IRA could wholesale 2 deals, 3 deals a year. Let's just say if you're in the real estate world and you're wholesaling a deal, and let's say the average profit you make on a wholesale deal is $10,000. Okay, I know a lot of you are making more than that, right? So, but let's just say it's $10,000. You could put you're $2,000 down with the purchase agreement at escrow in the name of your IRA. And the IRA is then going to wholesale this property and get a $10,000 fee. So your $2,000 turns into $12,000 in a matter of days, weeks, or maybe months. So I don't know what that return is. I mean, you could probably do it for me, but is that 500% or 5,000? I don't know. It's some ridiculous number.
500%, yeah.
Yeah,
but 500% in days, you annualize that, it's
crazy,
unbelievable. Right? But yeah.
I mean, and then you just do that 2 or 3 times a year. I'm not even saying do it 4 or 5, but let's say you do it twice a year. You turn your $5,000 into, let's say, $25,000 or $45,000 in 1 year. All of a sudden, you have a $50,000 IRA. And by the way, $50,000 IRA, that's like the average account size for an IRA holder at the age of 56 years old. And so, crazy. I mean, you're there, you're cut up that quick, and it's inside of a Roth. And so there's just so many different kinds of retirement vehicles we can help you with. That's when people kind of get bored, but because you can talk about all the details and rules and whatnot. But what I can tell is that it's not too late to start. And if you want to do deals or syndicate deals, or, Robert, you got stuff, or other people have different deals. It's for me, I love lending. So when I use my money, I like to lend to somebody, and I don't do as much equity anymore because I like to get a fixed rate of return. What's also cool about IRA, when you're borrowing it from somebody else, or if you're lending it from my perspective, the terms are created by us.
Yeah.
Right now, if you go to a bank and or even a private equity firm, when you go to a private equity firm or a partner who's got lots of money, you don't really get to call the shots. You don't get to say, hey, I'm going to pay you this percentage. They're going to come to you and say, we like the deal, Robert, but we're going to take 50% of it. That's our offer. If you want all of it, that's the deal. Yeah. Well, the nice thing about kind of this smaller money is you guys can make the terms, and you can create them so it's fair for both of you. So if I'm just looking for an 8% or 10% rate of return, and that works for you, we create the terms between my IRA and your investment LLC of what's going to be paid. And so it's that the flexibility is also very creative, and you can create all kinds of different waterfall kind of returns or fixed rate of returns or equity. So it's fun, and you can avoid the taxes on it and make some really big big gains.
Absolutely. And there's so many other great ways to do it too. So I lend out money from my IRA to other folks that I know in the industry on deals that I know that they're doing. And, they were going to pay someone, whether, if they were going to pay a hard money lender to do that deal anyway at 12%, well, hell, why don't I just lend you my money? I'll be a hard money lender and then just pay 12%, and then vice versa. Or even if they've got traditional bank financing, but they need to put 25% down and I've got confidence in the deal, great. I'll lend you the 25%. I'll take a second position at whatever rate and then we'll go. That's right. I'm surprised that more folks don't do that, actually, we should probably talk about that in the boardroom where folks kind of go both directions. It's like, these guys, you've been around them for years, you trust them. Okay, well, if you're going to borrow it anyway, why don't I lend it to you? And then vice versa. When you need money or whenever I need money, I'll borrow it from you and kind of go.
A lot of people do that, actually. A lot of partnerships do that.
Oh, is that right?
They do like one deal a year that way, right? Okay. So like do one deal for each other that are partners. Because there are some rules, like you can't do that to your spouse or children. You can't do it that way, but you can do it with a business partner.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and my business partner and I, we buy mostly non-performing notes from banks, and that's something that I'll probably talk about in a later episode. But we do it kind of within an entity that we've created, and the entity's owned by my IRA, for example. So then, whatever happens, the deal pays off or whatever occurs, and then that money just comes right back in the IRA. So it's generating income. It's essentially like I'm buying the loan and then restructuring and taking care of it. But it's very passive. There's very little work. The attorneys are doing most of the stuff, and it just kind of goes. And that's just another angle. But to your point, when you actually look at it, you're controlling all of the shots, whether you create the terms of the loan, whether you do the real estate deal in there, whether you buy a note or whatever it might be, but you're kind of controlling what you're investing in, what it's secured by. And then you're either deferring the taxes that are paid on it or not paying them if it's a Roth, for example. Mm-hmm. And then it compounds, it grows so much faster in that way because the money is just accelerating at a faster rate. And you plug that into a program, you can see what the difference is, in 10 or 15, 20 years. You're talking about 5 times the difference that
Right.
is produced as a result. It's unbelievable. So it's so cool to hear. And it's crazy to hear Horizon Trust. You're like, oh, it's a little one, 700 million. I mean, that's super impressive. That's unbelievable. I was blown away when I heard the amount. That's freaking awesome. Congrats on that.
Thank you.
And the upward growth that you have, that's really, really, really exciting. So stay tuned on that. I'll be back on afterwards. That's super exciting. So let's talk about the lending side, the other side of your business, outside of Horizon.
So on our lending stuff, we're a little, I'd say we're traditional kind of hard money lenders. I mean, those are the type of terms and rates that we look for personally, and also from our investor group that we've had for a while now. So, we primarily are doing stuff that are first lien positions that we're lending 75% loan to value. We're charging 10 to 12% and 2 to 4 points. I mean, that's kind of what we're doing. And our investors, we've got a couple funds, and they're earning between 8 and 10% on their money. And we've been doing it for a long time. We're actually currently right now, we're not raising any funds at the moment. Our funds, are closed. We've kind of filled them up, and so we'll be opening up again sometime in 2020. We don't have a date yet, but we still lend. Our funds have funds. Our funds we currently do have monies to lend, and so when deals pay off, we lend out. And we do a little bit of, maybe a couple times we do maybe seconds or equity, but not too often. I've gotten really conservative after the real estate craziness in 2007, 8, and 9. I decided that I would be a lot more conservative, so I never felt the way, because I was rich like everybody else on paper in 2007.
Oh yeah.
This is great. And then I just learned real quick that liquidity is pretty powerful. And so this go around, I decided that I was going to have a little more liquidity. So if something ever happened, I'd be okay.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. So you've got, did you say 3 funds on the lending side?
We have 3 funds, yes.
Okay. That's terrific. So, and I think a big piece, and you might have said it, but if I didn't hear it right. So, but a majority of the lending that you're doing on the hard money side is on a commercial basis, right?
It's pretty much all commercial. I would say there's some flips, residential flips. So when I say some, maybe 5.
Okay.
But I would say we're all commercial. We've lent on defaulted notes. We like those as well. We like to lend on those. I know that's probably, you're an expert at that. I loved listening to you talk about that actually last week, because it's really a unique place and very smart place to be. So I was impressed that you guys, figured that out. So
thank you.
That is a good place. But we're just doing commercial for the most part. I'd say 95% of what we do is commercial. Our average loan size is $2 to $4 million. We'll do a little more. We'll do a little less if we like the deal or we like the borrower in particular.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where we're at.
That's so awesome to hear. I mean, $2 to $4 million average deal size with those kind of terms. I mean, that's fantastic. I could not be more excited about what you've got going on. So, hopefully the folks that are listening to this understand kind of the impact of that. That's really, really exciting. And the fact that you're like, we don't need any more money. We've got enough on the street. That's awesome. At least for now. I guess you're getting ready to start.
For now, we're not really big. I mean, I will mention that right now we're just changing the way that we are raising the funds, and we've been doing it for. My partner started the company 22 years ago. I partnered with him 10 years ago, and so we still have about 100, and we probably have 100 million, maybe 110 million out right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just. One of the things that people talk to me about also is balance and lifestyle. And that's one of the things that I want to focus on the trust company, but keep my lifestyle. And I've got 6 years left of my kids around. And I feel like I'm not anxious to grow that business, even though I like it and I understand that. I'm not ever going to leave it. I think I'll do it the day that I die, but we're not anxious to grow it. So.
Well, a $700 million trust company growing to 1.6 in a year and 110 million on the street. I don't think anyone's saying, hey, you're sitting back on your heels slacking. So
That's true. That's true.
Which, yeah. I mean, that's impressive numbers. Those are no joke. Well, cool. So let's back up in time a little bit. Let's talk about when you were flipping, when you're flipping commercial deals. That's a really exciting piece that I didn't know a whole lot about. But what can you give a little detail on that?
Yeah, I mean, so, I remember like one of the first, so there's a couple of them that come to mind, but it was apartment complex was one deal that really scared me because it was, again, going from doing a $300,000 house to doing like I think that one was like $4.5 million. I mean, it's a big jump. And then it was like 4.5 purchase. It was a defaulted note we bought from a bank.
Okay.
And then at auction. So I'm sorry, not at auction. The apartment building was at auction, and the commercial strip thing was from the bank. Mm-hmm. And auction was scary by itself. I mean, once you buy, like you have to have funds within 48 hours. Yeah. So it's like wired, it's not like get our financing in place. Like it's, yeah. And then, so anyways, I mean, it's big boy kind of just, I mean, I will tell you what I've learned, you learn that the hard way is, if you flipped homes, you've learned that everything takes longer and costs more. Well, that doesn't change when you get to bigger assets, with the exception that when things take longer and cost more, it really kicks your ass. I mean,
yeah. It's adding up fast.
I remember there was a period where it was costing us between $50,000 and $60,000 more per month than we had budgeted. And that was a lot. That's a lot of money being off every month. When our houses are off $3,000 or $4,000 a month or $5,000, it's like, okay, we'll figure it out. 50, 60 grand a month, and you got two other partners. It's like, it's real. It gets real quick. And so, but I can tell you, on those, there's obviously more upside, right? And so, and the competition is less. I think this is something you kind of even shared. Is the reason why we got into it is because at the time, I would probably say even right now, everyone wants to be a flipper. Right. Yeah. So you're competing with a little bit of stupid money as well. And then when you get into the bigger markets, like the 20 million or more markets, that's really competitive with the big institutional funds. So I don't want to play with them, because they're looking for small returns and they'll beat me out in pricing. And I don't want to compete with kind of stupid money in the streets. And so this little niche that I believe you talked about yesterday, which is, I hope more people really took that in, because you did a great job with that, is that $1 to $6 million place, or even up to $10 million from banks, people aren't really after it. And so if you can negotiate it and build a relationship, and I would say that's probably my answer to almost every question someone will ask me is, how did you do this, or this? And I can give you an example of a relationship that helped me get there. I was constantly building relationships, even at the banks, especially at the banks, right? Oh yeah. And those people, gave us some ins on being able to see different opportunities that they wanted to get off their books. And so, and usually it's at the end of the quarter or end of the year, especially end of the year. That's when typically things go on sale. You get some better pricing. That's when we got this little commercial strip place. And so it was half finished. That's kind of a perfect scenario, something half finished, not just land. Yeah. The banks don't want to know what to deal. They don't still want to deal with it any longer. And so, we went in and had we hired someone. I'm not a contractor. And so, my partner kind of oversaw that side as far as, the pricing and rehab and finishing the buildings and sites, et cetera. And, but yeah, that was that one deal. The apartment complex was, the stories I could tell you of buying your first deal. After we bought it, I think someone killed in it. It was not a small complex. It was big, and it was in close to Las Vegas, Boulevard, UNLV. And yeah, we redid the whole, everything in groups. Each building we rehabbed each at a time, and you increased rent rates and take care of the problems, and you get slip and fall lawsuits. And it's, if you're not careful, these are all learning lessons. It's things that you learn when you do your first home, about contractors who screw you and financing companies who don't care about you. You learn about all those things, except in a bigger way on bigger deals. And so I will say the banks, I think I mentioned to you when we talked about it in Cabo, is, the nice thing about buying from banks is you usually have more time. Not necessarily a ton more time, but you can tire kick it for a little while, for months even, and negotiate for a while and really get your arms around an asset and know what you have much quicker than like at an auction. You got an auction coming up and you got to close. You got a week to look at it. It's a little more stressful, but we bought plenty of stuff at auction as well.
Man, that's exciting stuff. No, you hit on a bunch of key points that we haven't dug into on the podcast yet. So I'll do some recap, but you're absolutely right. So you have that kind of, the barriers to entry on the residential side, what we do, are relatively low, right? If you've got some money and access to deal flow, you can do a deal. And fortunately, there's more folks with funds or access to funds on the residential side for probably especially less than $250,000, $300,000 deals. So the barrier to entry is really, really low. And then to your point, if you get over $20 million, there's a lot of big funds. That's where the big boys play. And when you have that much money that you got to place, and folks are expecting a 6% return or something on their money, well, they can jump in and buy stuff at really low cap rates and leverage it and make that work really well. But if you're talking about that 1 to 2 million range where you kind of price out the mom and pops, and then below 10 million where you're pricing, it's not enough, it's not sexy enough for the funds to jump into, you kind of have that gap where you can kind of sneak into these deals and there's not much competition. And assuming you have access to capital, you can get those kind of deals done. And there's a lot of them that you can add value to, whether it be poor management. There's a ton of them with poor management at that price point, So you can have value through better management, through actually improving the asset, hopefully through buying it at a discount like anything else, just to name a few. That's before you really get into the note purchase side. That just means that you become the bank on a distressed asset, and you've got a couple exit strategies before you even get to the actual commercial real estate asset, which is really exciting. So there's a lot of room there. We do that. About half of our business is in that kind of realm, and kind of what we do. And it's probably the thing that excites me the most. We've got 3 of them actively going right now that I was mentioning in Cabo. We had one smaller note deal that just paid off. That was a very, very good deal for us. The one within our IRA. And then, we've got a couple bigger commercial deals right now that have come up through that way. We got a 73,000 square foot kind of retail office center. It's pretty exciting. And it's the same thing. Poor management, buying it at a little bit of a discount, actually a pretty fair discount. And then some ability to add some value where I think that it was just, not the highest and best use of the asset. I think we can get a little bit more for retail space on some of these avenues with good frontage on a busy road than you could for office space. So, let's convert some of that to some higher use, higher rent areas. Mm-hmm. So that's a really, really good avenue. And it's cool that you were doing that so early. And I can only imagine, the first couple of residential deals that I did, and the first couple of residential deals that I assume a majority of people listening, they know exactly what that is. You just don't know what you don't know at that phase.
That's right.
Jumping into it, expenses are over. It takes longer. You're getting beat up by contractors and all these different things. Well, the exact same thing happened to us on the commercial side. Sounds like the same thing happened to you on those deals.
Sure.
And, but the burn rate's fast. The burn at $50,000 a month, $40,000 a month. I mean, it's real money. And it's kind of it's a unique scenario because when you start looking at doing residential deals initially, you're like, okay, well, I'm over budget and I need an extra $3,000 this month. I'll just fund that. I'll just write a check, $4,000, $5,000. But when you start talking about $40,000, $50,000 a month ticking in, at some point you're like, I don't know how many more of these checks I can write. It starts adding up. So it's exciting. But there are certainly ways to structure it and to do it properly so that you don't get caught that way. More so than anything, it's just lining up a little extra capital because it's probably going to happen. But sure. So you started doing it. How long ago was it that you got into the kind of commercial flipping field?
It was about 9 years ago. 9 years ago. Yeah. That
was a really good time to get into it. So just coming out of the recession there, like 2010-ish.
This is we're coming out. Commercial is lagging residential. So there were still opportunities, and values were still dropping in commercial then. Residential had flattened out. But no, it was a crazy time, and but it was fun. I mean, it was, and I said, look, we still do it now. I'm just more conservative about it. That's all.
Sure. So, given what you know, I mean, you're processing so much money through the trust company. People are doing investments. You've got your commercial hard money lending business. You've got your own investments, without going into too much detail that you can share, but like, what are you seeing as pretty good opportunities kind of coming, kind of looking forward on both of those fronts, or where you're seeing people kind of going, things of that nature? Just where do you see the opportunity lying from someone like that? You see so much stuff.
Look, I think if I'll say one thing that we've been talking about is I really do think buying notes, defaulted or not defaulted, performing and non-performing notes, I think is not, from hard money lending companies and banks, from both, is not a terrible place to be. I know that a lot of people can't enter that market because it's not as easy, but I do want to mention that we've talked about it a lot, and I think there's a lot of opportunity there, and I think there's going to be more opportunity there as time goes on, especially over the next maybe not the next 6 months, but I think a year from now. Mm-hmm. For a couple of years, I think there's going to be a lot of performing and non-performing specifically note opportunities. I'm still, this might scare some people, but I still like land deals, meaning lending or buying land in the right areas. Like I've been doing stuff in Midland, Texas, these oil city places, mm-hmm. Where you get you do all the horizontal work. So, we're getting all the permits and we're getting it rezoned from farm to, 4 per acre kind of stuff. And because there's so much I've done actually quite a bit of that. And each one of those steps creates additional value to the land, right? So you buy the land for $100,000 acre. Well, all of a sudden you get it zoned for 4 to 8 units per acre, and that $100,000 overnight, it's worth $300,000. Mm-hmm. Just by, or doubling. I say it's worth $200,000.
Right.
Now you get some finished lots in there, and you bring curb and sewer and gutter and in there and water, and now you got lots. You sell off to D.R. Horton. I've sold hundreds. I don't know if it's thousands, maybe thousands. It wouldn't be thousands. Maybe close to 8,000 lots to D.R. Horton. And so that's just been the reason why I like that play is there's less capital involved. Mm-hmm. There's capital involved in buying the property, but there's not as much involved in the permitting and the horizontal work. There's definitely money in the horizontal work, but not as much as building an actual unit. So for me, I like those areas. At the end of the day, though, because I like real estate so much and I'm so conservative, I am a lender. So if I had to give people advice, if you can't be like Robert, like you, like someone who's in it, living it every day, finding deals, negotiating it, having the relationships, like what you're doing, Robert. If you're listening, you're not like there or want to be there, then my recommendation is lending to people like you. And I know you didn't ask me to say that, nor are you even saying you need money, but from all of my experience, I've learned that I love doing what I do, but I also want those that are passionate about it and really experts and good at doing what you're talking about doing to let them go do it. And mm-hmm. even though I might not get all the upside that you're getting, I'm going to get paid first. And so I like being in deals where people are really good at what they're doing. I get paid before them, meaning when that deal pays off, I'm getting my money back first. I'm getting my agreed equity and or interest back. And then the guy running it gets paid. Mm-hmm. For my first 15 years of my life, I was paid last.
Sure.
And I always paid all my bankers, hard money lenders, investors. They always got paid first. Mm-hmm. And so I just remembered, for years, I was like, at some point I want that transition to happen. So now I am on that side of things. Finding people like you is not easy. And so when you find those great people that are good at what they're doing, the advice I give is partner with them. If you want to be like, and again, I'm picking on you, Robert, because I know you've been successful, but if you want to be like Robert and build your business like Robert, partner with him. And guess what? He's probably going to say, and I'm going to beat you to saying it, is you don't need a partner, or you don't want that partner. And guess what you're going to say? You're going to say, Robert, I'm going to partner with you. You're going to ask 2, 3, 4, 5 times. And guess what? What I've learned is persistency and hard work and bringing value to something. It's going to work out. If you come to Robert next time and say, you know what, you said no, but this time I found you some money and I found you a deal, Robert's probably going to now consider partnering with you. But having the right team and people in place to help you build to go to the next step was critical for me. I don't credit my successes to myself. I've built great relationships. I've been burned by some of them along the way. We all learn that. But I now want to be paid first, and/or be paid where I'm not having to do as much. Passive is important to me now. And so, but passive doesn't get you paid the big bucks. Passive is consistent bucks. And so that was a mouthful for you, but that's kind of, at least that's how I feel about my first deals, and/or, you know, what you should do for your first deals. If you want to get in the commercial play, find someone doing it, and don't take no as an option. And after maybe the 5th no, maybe you go to find someone else, but not really. If you keep getting no, it means you're not providing value. If you're providing value to me, like the guy that lent me on my first deal, he lent me 100% of my financing and I gave him 75% of the deal. You know, people are like, oh my gosh, I would never do that. That's crazy. Like, whatever. I made $3,000. He made 12. Mm-hmm. If I had to do it all over again, I would give him 100% of the proceeds. Why? Because after I did that first deal, he became my investor for life. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't have ever been able to test my theory if I knew what I was doing. So don't be afraid to not get back what you're expecting, because you're giving more than receiving. So give as much as you can in your team or in a relationship, and I assure you it'll come back tenfold. It will, and you'll learn real quick.
100%. Well, thank you for all of that. Hell, I might have to edit some of that out. People will think I'm trying to upsell them. But I really, really do appreciate that. And it's, I mean, it resonates, right? It's like in your scenario, let's go back even before that, you know, when you were kind of introduced to that girl from the woman at church, from your mom, you know, that scenario came up, and it was like, you were like, hey, I need to be around that person. They are doing something different than I know, and I'm attracted to it. That is an exciting path. What can I do? So you go to that guy and say, hey, I want to shadow you. I want to work with you. What do you need help with? So you come and you add value, just because you needed to be around that to see what they were doing to better yourself. And the exact same scenarios it's the exact same pitch you're talking, or not pitch, but it's the exact same kind of situation that you're talking about here. It's like, hey, you need to get a deal done. You had to give 75% of away, but that was a loss leader to get into that relationship. That was a way to get into doing deals. It's like, yeah, you made $3,000. The other guy made 12. That's not great, but at the same point, now you're in that deal. You weren't going to be in the deal otherwise. Like, that deal doesn't happen there. And then after that, you've got a relationship. You keep, you know, you've been building it, and you're still doing stuff. Like, I mean, that was a huge, huge stepping stone to get into it. The same thing happened to us. I think I don't know if I told the story in Cabo in front of everyone, or if we talked about it afterwards, but I essentially was in that same boat. We had a longer period on that first commercial note that we bought. And then we got into a competitive bid situation on the deal, and our purchase time frame went from a 60-day close with a 45-day due diligence down to a 14-day close, and a 4-day due diligence, which was really stressful. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have the capital lined up because I was sure I could get it done in 60 days. So when we won the deal with 14 days to go, I had to be very selective who I was talking to about the deal, because I needed a yes quick. Didn't have time to shop it, you know? Right. So I talked to a couple of folks, and then I reached out to the guy that I really wanted to kind of be involved with, but I was worried that he might not. And to the exact same point that you're talking about, it was I wasn't willing to take no, and I was providing as much value as I possibly could, and I had to give away a lot more than I wanted to. So we had to give away half of the deal, and it was kind of a slam dunk deal, and it was hard to get to that point at first. But now that I look back, it's like, one, that deal wasn't getting done. So 100% of nothing is a big zero. It's a big goose egg, right? So I still own this deal today. It's a fantastic asset. It pays us very well. It's got a lot of value, a lot of equity, about $3 million in equity in that deal. And I'm stoked about it. But beyond that, it also built the relationship with this gentleman that, and actually I'm going to have him on one of these podcasts here, gentleman named Tom Scott here in St. Louis. But we've done, I think, at least 4 deals since then. And the bigger deal that we're talking about, the 73,000 square footer, he's in on that deal too. The ownership percentage has adjusted downward, but we have a fantastic relationship, a great trust back and forth. And now we're both doing a lot of deals together as a result of that. And almost directly mirrors the story that you were talking about. And I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm really, really happy that he was in on that first deal, and he actually added a lot of value, and it helped out, and I got to shadow him. I learned a lot more than what I think I would have had I partnered with somebody else. So it was a really, really good way. And to your point, it's like, just even if you get into doing the deals a year sooner by giving away a little bit more, you're still better off because you're getting something and you're in there sooner. So awesome. Whether it be on the debt side or a minority partner side or whatever it might be, I think that's an absolutely fantastic way to go about it.
No, that's great.
Great advice there. I didn't even hit on that stuff yet. So that's awesome. So you've done, that the commercial land stuff that you were talking about is really, really exciting. Do you, when you're looking at that, and you probably look at it a little bit differently because your access to capital is pretty substantial, but for someone else out there that's looking at, essentially buying land, getting it entitled, getting it zoned for something else. And, so that's more of a on the records value add, because you're not doing any physical. It's more, rezoning, entitlement stuff. And then maybe adding value by putting in the streets and the sewer work and the water work and, kind of getting it grade ready. How would you tell someone, if you're telling someone to get into that or talking to someone about getting into that, how would you talk to them about like hedging the risk on it, in case there's a market shift or something kind of during that phase of time?
One way to hedge it, there's a deal in Texas that we did that you can hedge is you do a takedown over time. So a lot of these land deals, at least in Texas, are owned by private farmers who actually are pretty wealthy, older, and they're looking to sell. And I remember in one specific deal, we asked them, I forgot what the purchase price was of the land, but it was like, I don't know how many acres, right? So let's just say it was 100 acres. And no, it wasn't that many acres. It was like 50 acres. So it was like 50 acres. And it cost so much to put finished lots on there. And so we asked him what he was going to do with his funds, and he didn't really know what he was going to do with his money. So we did a seller finance deal, and we took it down in tranches, and that actually helped a lot. And so we actually parceled those the farmland in different parcels. We parceled it out. In a couple different parcels, and we paid him cash for the first section and paid terms on the on the other sections, and that allowed us to kind of get some work done. But then also, before we even closed, we were already talking to the city to make sure we get zone approval. You don't close unless you're going to get zone approval, right? That's too big of a risk.
Yeah.
But you put it under contract at a certain dollar amount, and then you need to buy yourself time. And typically these farmers, you can buy yourself time. It's okay. You can do a 90-day or 120-day close or subject to a few things. And so that's how we kind of got into those first 1 or 2 deals. And so, every deal is just so different. That's why I always, like I said, I'm looking for hair in a deal too. It just depends. A deal has been around for a while, and we say your price, my terms, or my terms, your price. So that's, if he wants his dollar amount, then it's going to be my terms. So if he wants what his asking price is, and it's been listed for a year or 2, I might give him his price, but then I want my terms. He's going to carry back. It's going to be at 3%. It's blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Or you want, I'll pick the price and you pick the terms. So that $2 million deal, I'll give you $1.2 million for, but I'll close in 7 days.
Right.
you get to pick the terms.
Uh-huh.
So that's a lot of how we negotiate deals in the beginning, is just looking for distressed stuff, finding areas that are already growing, and then negotiating, getting a piece of real estate. See, look, these builders, home builders, D.R. Horton, they don't want, they're not your competitor. They're not looking to permit, zone, and finish lots.
Sure.
So you can have those discussions with home builders and private small home builders too. Like, hey, if I had 40 finished lots for you, or 10 finished lots for you, what would you pay? And you start those conversations, then you go out and find that kind of asset and develop it for them. So that's a lot of what we did.
No, that's fantastic. And it actually relates so closely to what we do every day on the residential side, right? It's just essentially reverse wholesaling, or reverse wholesaling to a degree. Obviously you're going to have a period of time there that you're adding some value or getting it through that process. But that's exactly it, right? You're going out and finding out who the buyer is, what they'd pay, and then working backwards from there and adding some value and doing it at scale at 40, 50 units at a time. So that's really, really cool. I think that's a fantastic opportunity, especially in areas like Texas, where, population's growing like crazy and there's good employment, and, the economics of it work out pretty well over there.
That's right.
Well, cool. Well, we've been, I don't want to take too much of your time. Let's just jump into a couple kind of personal items, and then we'll close this thing down, let you get on your weekend here. But, so you talked about like lifestyle a few times, and I know that we've talked about this a little bit, but, let's talk about work-life balance. Like, what's that look like for you?
Well, it's changed over time, but not because of the reasons you've probably would imagine. How do I say that? I want to say that I'm not going to be humble about it, actually, because I feel like I try not to get too excited or too ego about kind of some of the successes I've had, but I will brag about my work balance life. I feel like I've figured it out.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone talks about it and hasn't figured it out. And my quick answer to those that say they haven't figured it out, it's really your fault. And believe me, it was my fault for years. 5 or 6 years ago, I decided that I would be in control of my schedule and no longer my schedule be in charge of me. That might sound like a simple thing, but it's not. And so it's a mental thing, and it's a heart thing, and it's a informing of others kind of thing. And so I decided one day that I was only going to work certain hours every day, and it was going to be 10 to 3 because my schedule was out of control. I was taking calls at dinner. I was going in early. I was trying to fit in workouts. And so I decided I would change my schedule of that. And I did that for a few years until I changed my lifestyle a little bit. And now I live in 2 different places. And so now I work really for 2 straight days, 10 or 12 hours. And then I don't really work as much the other days. I actually have a fixed schedule when I really work. And so I now pick my schedule and I own it. And so I've figured out work balance, I think, better than, I hate to say probably, than anyone I've ever met. But it is because I committed to it. I just figured it out. I just decided this is what I'm going to do, and I can do it, and it's up to me to do it. And I told my assistant, this is how I'm going to live. And so I've made that kind of an important thing in my life. And there's things in my life that help me get better and better at it. My other half is all about talking about being present, being in the now. And so that's something that's helped me kind of live my life even better, even now the last few years. And so I guess my advice, sorry, long-winded here to you. And
it's a great answer. Keep going. Yeah.
Is pick your schedule. And the reason why this is so important is because the better you are personally in life, the more success you'll have. I make more money now working less hours because I am focused and I am happier in my personal life. Just think about it. When your wife and kids are healthy and your friends are good and you're able to work out every day or whatever your schedule is, just think how much better you are. You're just a better father, spouse, friend, and physical fit. Like I saw you in Cabo, you're fit. And so all of those things make you a better person, which then you get to go do the thing you love the most. And you're in top performance and kind of in your heart and in your mind and physically. And so what I try to tell everyone is pick your schedule, test it, pick something that works for you. Maybe in the beginning it's 9 to 5 because you're working like 7 to 7, but pick your schedule, work those schedule, put your phone down after those hours. And then slowly you're going to say, okay, well, I'm just not going to work Fridays anymore. I did that as well after I changed it 10 to 3. Then I changed it even more. And so, the big thing is you can do it. You can change it. You could actually do it tomorrow. You could change it tomorrow. You don't have to wait a month to figure this out. And you really do have to just go do it. So,
dude, that is as good of an answer as I can imagine. I'm so happy I didn't skip that and we talked about it because one, I know. You said that you're doing it at such a high level, like the best of any of the folks that and I would 100% agree with that. I can see it. Our discussions. I think about it like when I'm trying to think about how the future looks. I'm trying to model it after certain folks, and you were right up in there. And I know that. Just talking with you in the past and talking just right now, you were intentional about, hey, I've got 6 years left with my kids. This is kind of where it is. And you're thinking about that and you're putting it into perspective. And that's a lot of the way that I think, and I greatly appreciate that. Obviously like my kids are younger, 7 and 4, but it's being around them and making sure when I am there that I'm as present as possible is a big, big thing that I'm thinking about. And am I always present? Hell no. I mean, I don't think, but
everyone's not always present. We try. That's something we do have to work on. Everyone.
100%. But until you actually define that and put it as a priority, you're not even thinking about it. So you're certainly going to be less present than you would than if you're intentionally working to be better at it. So that's one thing that you can absolutely do tomorrow, to your point. Secondly, step into trying to have more time with the family or with whatever it is that is your work-life balance. Everyone's gonna have their own thing, but that's exactly it. The more balanced you are and the more, maybe success that you're feeling at home or whatever whatever that other piece is for you, the better off you're going to be. And everyone's a little bit different. For me, I mean, I really, when I'm with the kids and with the family, like, it's important to me. So I'm trying to be as present as absolutely possible. And I think about that. I think I was talking to Jessie one time a little while back and she mentioned that. And I literally, when I got back from the event, I went and took the dry erase marker and wrote it on the mirror in the bathroom. So I see it every morning. It's like, be present, did you win or lose today? And put little hash marks there. But no, I mean, I think that's just unbelievably important. Something that I'm a big proponent on, and I'm trying to push out there more and trying to find ways and talk to more people that are doing it at a better level. And then also kind of pushing that message. So the folks that it resonates with, like, think about it and actually kind of put it into, kind of into their life. So thanks for that. That was really, really big. And for the folks listening, I mean, I think you've got it down pretty well. So, start today and make a couple changes tomorrow and then in a month, and sooner or later, you'll be where you want to be as it relates to that. And I think a vast majority of folks will realize more success as a result of it,
Absolutely.
Well, cool. One last thing, and then we'll roll it out here. What routines do you follow every day to kind of really help you get a jump start on the day and kind of, bookend it, start it off well and end it well?
For me, starting off, I really, I like to work out. So I do, for me, I'd say 4 to 5 times a week. I work out. That makes me feel good. And then, and I'm eating right as well. I think that those are important, but then ending my day with, I really try, and this is to your point, I will admit I'm not perfect at. I'm pretty good at, I'd say. And like you mentioned, Jessica's really helped me on this, but it's about being present. I would like to end my day off with, we do dinners, and I'm proud to say, we have a pretty hard line, no phone at the table rule. And so we have really good ending the day as either if it's just Jess and I, or if it's me and Jess with the kids.
Yeah.
We have family dinner at least 3 nights or 4 nights, or minimum 3 nights a week.
That's awesome.
And we end with communication and no phones, and we connect. And so for me, that's, I think, starting, personally working out and ending with those kind of being present kind of experiences at night are important. And then enjoying this life. That's that I would say that's a routine. Actually, I would say we probably do 2 vacations a month at least, maybe sometimes more. But,
people are going to hate hearing that, but that's awesome.
But I try to save as much as I spend. I just, you hear all these stories. Life is short, so it's about creating experiences, and I believe in playing and working just as hard, and that's life's better that way. That's for sure.
Dude, that's fantastic. Well, I love that. I mean, that's it. I'm working towards that goal and building the life that you want and spending it the way you want. No, that's really cool. And then obviously, Jesse's got Michelle reading the 5 love languages, so that's good. That's pretty cool.
We were talking about it today for lunch, so that's fun. Great.
No, that's awesome. Well, cool. I mean, I don't want to take any more time. This has been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on and doing this and sharing your wisdom and guidance and successes. So to help other folks kind of do more in their life. So
my pleasure, man. It was great. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks again. Look forward to seeing you in a few weeks here in Vegas.
Perfect. Sounds great.
All right, sweet. Holy hell, guys. That was unbelievable. I hope you got some great stuff there. Go over a couple of big items on the way out. Shadow the folks you want to be around. If you know folks or you want to be around people that are doing what you want to do, get in front of them. Whether you work for them, whether you intern for them, whether you invest in their deals, whatever it takes, get around the people that are doing what you want to do. That's the fastest way to get there. That was a huge item that he hit on. Absolutely loved it. Talked about the opportunities in commercial real estate, kind of what price points you can get into it, different ways you can get into it. Talked about buying distressed notes, how to get money for it. Talked about self-directed IRAs. So many avenues there that he hit on and that we talked about whether you invest in your own deals through a self-directed IRA, whether you borrow from other people's self-directed IRAs, the growth that you can have without paying taxes or with deferring taxes is unbelievable. I'm glad he hit on that. Work-life balance, how to stay at your peak. I mean, that was just a really, really high-level episode. I hope you guys really appreciated it. Thought it was freaking awesome. Hey, guys, as always, this episode of the podcast is sponsored by Bottleneck Real Estate Virtual Assistants. These guys are fantastic. We've been using them for years in our business. They've really helped us scale. They can handle really any task related to real estate, whether it be for the investing side, real estate agents, lenders, but specifically we use them for our contract to close process, our transaction coordination, also for phone and email correspondence. We really use them for working with the insurance company, working with utility on and offs, dealing with anything in our CRM, graphic design. I mean, really anything that you can need, they work really, really well with that. And the also really big benefit that this group has is they help with onboarding and tracking for that process. So they've got folks here locally in the States that can help build out some of your systems and processes, whether it be contract to close or contract coordination, kind of define the different steps that are necessary when the virtual assistant needs to contact who on that process. And then also the folks here can kind of set you up with a tracking system so that the virtual assistants are responsible for updating the tracking forms, providing those tracking forms to you to make sure that everything is going smoothly and staying on course. Probably one of the best pieces that this group can really do for you. But hopefully you guys like them as much as we do. If you want to get in touch, it's bottleneckrealestate.com, bottleneckrealestate.com, and I think you will be very happy with them. If you got some good quality content out of that, if you think it would help anybody, please go to iTunes or SoundCloud or whoever you're listening to this on and subscribe to the podcast. Also, please give us a 5-star rating. It really helps get us out there. If you do subscribe and give us a 5-star rating, take a screenshot of it, email it over to info@robertheider.com, robertheyder.com, and register for you guys to win a free one-on-one coaching session with myself or one of our guests. They were nice enough to give up some of their time, so thank you for that. Also, please follow us on social media, Robert_Heider at Instagram, Robert_Heider at Instagram. We'll drop some really quality content there. Also, I almost forgot, if you guys want a free commercial real estate guide and commercial real estate analysis tool, just go to the website, robertheider.com, fill out that brief little form, and we'll email that over to you. It's a really, really good tool just to be able to analyze deals quickly, understand kind of what's going on, see if it's actually a deal. All right, guys, thanks. Until the next one.